Welcome back to the shop, gentlemen. Today I'm installing a remote start on my wife's 2007 Ford Freestyle. I got her this for Christmas and she was pretty happy, but now it's February and I don't have it installed yet, so she's starting to get a little impatient. This is a Bulldog brand. You can get these at Autozone. If you have a vehicle that is 96 or newer, you're going to want this one. This is a little bit more, but it has a bypass for the anti-theft system, which most everything has after that. So you're going to want to pay a few dollars more. I think this is $79.99 for this one. Before I show you how I installed it, I got to complain about it. I bought this from the store, from AutoZone. They had RS82 and RS82B. You see where it, right here, includes built-in anti-theft bypass. I got it home, and I got this one. It was in the box. I didn't realize it was the wrong one right away. In the RS82B, there's a section here that comes out. I'll put a picture like maybe up over here to show you what it looks like. You pop it out and put your key in for the bypass. And there's also another 4-pin connector and a 2-pin connector for the transponder. This didn't have it. So after I started the installation, I realized I didn't have the right one. So I talked to the company, I sent them an email, and there was also, this is the big thing that makes me mad, there was a note in the box of this right here, RS82B, built-in bypass, and the note said, if you need a bypass, call this 1-800 number and we'll send you one for free. Now, why would you put that in the box like that? Obviously, you know if you put that note in, you know that you put this one in. That is not right. You're knowingly putting the wrong product in the box and putting an inferior product in the box and saying, hey, if you need the good one, call us and we'll give it to you. Eventually, they did send me the new box for it, the correct one, and then I didn't have the right wires for it. They just sent me the bare controller. And the harness is this harness is a little bit different, and I needed the other two. And it took them months to get me the correct stuff to get my starter installed. So I'm not real happy with this company, and because of that, I would not recommend them. I did get a whole, like this is an extra one now, they did send me a whole extra unit, but when you have to wait months to get your starter installed, it's not really worth it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the Bulldog security website. BulldogSecurity.com, amazingly enough, is the address, and look under wiring diagrams and do all the doodly doos and all of that crap, and you'll get the colors that you need. So my 12-volt constant is red, located at ignition switch harness, and it just goes through all the connectors. These are all the stuff you gotta hook up to the brain box here. So of course I'm only showing you the application for 2005 to 2007 Ford Freestyle, but everything's gonna be similar, only different. What I have to do is get this panel under the steering column off to get to the wires that I want. And of course I don't have the right size. Son of a diddly. Okay, I went ahead and took the panel off here, threw it over in the passenger seat, and I also took the panel under the steering column off. That just used 3 Phillips screws, and screws or bolts holding the other panel there were 7mm. View of all the wiring harnesses under here for your ignition switch and all that stuff we're going to tap into. So we should be able to find the right ones with their wiring diagram and get this thing all hooked up. I'm going to show you now why those keys with the computer chips in them for security, for anti-theft for your car are so important. Here's my ignition switch harness, and I've unhooked the important wires from it for test purposes here. This is the constant power, 12 volts, always, whether the key's on, off, anytime, 12 volts. This is going to the ignition, and this one is going to the starter. So I can have this off in just a minute. There's a plastic cover under there with 3 Phillips screws. You can pull that off, disconnect this, and I'll show you. This has security, so this won't work, but I'm going to put the key in the ignition just to show you if it was a car that didn't have that. You can hook these two together, and now the ignition is on, and your car started that fast and stolen. So this will run just fine. You could just clamp these together and you could drive this car. There's a harness right behind here. I'm going to shut it off now. Right here, and it doesn't let the ignition work unless there's a key with a chip right in here. So we'll do it now. Pinch the wires together, and it sounds like it's coming on, but you'll notice the security light flashing, and now when I touch it, nothing happens. But anyway, I'm going to put these wires back in, put my connector back in, whoops, and what we need to do is go up this wire a little bit, tie our constant red wire, and we've got a couple other wires to tie into here. We're going to go ahead and do that now and get this button back up, and then once we do that, all of our other wires I think are right in this one of these harnesses. There's like 3 harnesses right there. I believe they're all in. All of my other wires are in these harnesses that I need to tie into. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything I can done tonight and put it back together. I was just on the old interwebs on their site, and I was bouncing between the instructions and the wiring diagrams for my vehicle. The colors of the wires that come with the kit. So now I got, and these are the wires on my car. So now I just got to find them and connect them together. So light green with a purple stripe is my ignition wire, which I already knew that. The red is the constant power. The dark green is the starter. And gray with yellow, which would be this one right next to the ignition one, is my accessory one. So I just need to cut back some insulation and get them spliced into there, and I'll show you how I do that. And then tape it back up. I can just plug this ignition wiring back into the switch up here, and this part will be done. I'm just going to quickly show you how I do it with one of them. I've stripped a piece of the green starter wire back, quite a ways, maybe an inch and a half, somewhere in that range. And I split it in 2, so there's a nice opening in the middle, about half on each side. Now I'm going to feed this wire was already pre-stripped back that far. So I'm just going to feed it through. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to hold this. I'm just going to wrap it around a few times and kind of tie it real tight. And I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Okay, it looks like that. I'm going to have my wire going away from my connector, because that's going to be facing up and my other box is going to be down, so that's the way I want it. So that's pretty good connection. I'm going to go ahead and tape that up really good, and maybe even put zip ties over the tape. But that's a good strong connection, and it should work really good. Okay, here's what it looks like all taped and zip tied back together. So this is secure. There's no bare wires showing or anything like that. and I'm going to put it all back together, and I'll be done with the ignition switch portion of the install. This is an important safety feature. This switch will disable the remote start whenever your hood is open. What I did was I found a spot on thin metal here where I could put this switch in, and I just drilled a hole, and it's going to touch right up here somewhere, and I think it will hit it enough to push it down to break the contact. When it's up like this, it grounds out and completes the circuit. When it's pushed down, it's not grounded, and then your starter will. So here's where I'm at on the installation of this remote start on my wife's car. I got this for her for Christmas, and it's now November. Still didn't get it installed, so I'm trying to hurry up and get it done before it gets too cold this year. I have the start accessory and all that, power wires all hooked up. What I'm working on now is this connector here, which is the 9-pin, I believe it is. I have this printed out from the manual. It's one that starts out black to ground on the top, parking light. That's pretty much what I got to do. I have a couple wires on this one, but not too many. This is mostly for GM style. I've got the transponder loop up around my ignition already. You just have to pop the steering column cover off. There's a loop of wire that goes underneath here, right around here, and that plugs into the transponder where you have your copy of the key with the chip in it, so it tricks the ignition into working when you use the remote starter, basically, even though it needs to have a coded key. Your coded key will be down in there, which will be up under the dash. This is off the website for Bulldog, and it has, the ignition ones were all what I needed, but now I'm getting down in here into the parking lights and stuff, and if you'll look at SJB connector D, pin 26. So you're thinking, oh, it's going to tell me a little more about it. All that it says under note 2, smart junction box, driver's side dash, which is right there. But I have no idea which connector is A, B, C, D, E, any of those. And I'm just going through and having to probe wires. When I'm trying the accessory, like the brake switch, I'll probe a wire that's the right color, and I'll have to see if for sure if it is, if that's where I want to splice in at. The difficult one is going to be the factory alarm disable. Hopefully I can find that. That's the one I'm worried about the most. I'm going to go ahead and get started and try to find some of the easy ones like the parking lights, power lock. I can push those, and I should be able to find those fairly easy under here. These are a really cool idea. I haven't seen these before. Once you find the wire that you need to splice into, you just simply put this over the wire. Once you're sure it's the right one, snap it down, and that's going to cut through the insulation and make contact with the wire. And then when you shut it, you can see the tabs up here. You just get this on the wire where you want it, and all you have to do is plug your connector into it. So that makes it really handy. Not all the wires have this, unfortunately, but a few of them do. So you just find the right wire, snap it, and then plug your connector on. I ended up not using a lot of the wires on this. A lot of them were for different options, different vehicles. We're going with the tackless option because it starts right away. But if it has a problem starting, we can always hook that up to one of the tack wires. And not doing anything with the power locks or anything like that. It has that from the factory. I need to hook this up at some point. This is for the hood switch, so that if you have the hood open, it can't work. But yeah, relatively straightforward with those connectors that I showed you. So I'm just going to tuck all this up in there, and I've got my extra key that I have. It's not a cut key, but it does have the transponder chip in it, and that's in there, and that is programmed just with the instructions that came with it, where you put each key in the ignition and turn it on of your existing keys, turn it on and then back off, and then you put the key that's not cut, you just slip it in the ignition and then hit the button on the remote starter, and that programs that key. So it actually works now. Hit the start button. Starts right up. Shuts it right off. That's all we wanted it to do. So works perfect. I'm going to tuck this up under the panel. I'm probably going to slip it right up into here and not even bother screwing it down. It should stay right up in that spot. And then I just got to take this as the antenna wire, this yellow wire, and I'm going to run it up right along here and pinch it in up there, and that should work pretty good. It's supposed to be flat and not next to anything metal if you can help it. So this is plastic on both sides. So that should work pretty good for us.